Right. 10 February 2024. And today I want to give you a quick update. As you can see, I'm in the dark. Load shedding is getting worse and worse here in South Africa. I'm getting at least 3 load sheddings a day. So it's getting crazy because of the situation here. So I want to take you through some very important stories. And specifically, I want to look at what is happening at SADC. There is a big problem at SADC because the dispute in Zimbabwe has moved from Zimbabwe. The dispute between Nelson Chamisa and Mnangagwa is now at SADC. This is where everything is going to be resolved. As we have been saying before, there is nothing that is going to change in Zimbabwe until there's negotiations between Nelson Chamisa and Mnangagwa. But ED is now making serious efforts, and he doesn't want to talk to Nelson Chamisa at all. In fact, what ED is doing is he's now spending more and more time in Botswana, and he's now setting up the infrastructure to take over at SADC. So if you see Mnangagwa spending so much time, his guys, his intelligence guys, and all the guys that are around him are spending more and more time in Botswana. The Botswana guys, I don't think they understand the kind of people that Mnangagwa works with. Those guys are intelligence supremos, or superior level of intelligence. They are going to go into Botswana. They are going to identify who is who at that SADC secretariat, and they are going to spend a lot of time trying to destabilize the guys at the SADC secretariat who've been doing a lot of work. So the guys at the SADC secretariat, they are now the next target for ED. And the current reason that ED is giving for not wanting to talk to Nelson Chamisa is that Chamisa is no longer a member of the CCC, so he did not contest under the CCC, so he does not have a right to be contesting that election. He is no longer the person that went into the election in 2023, so his dispute has fallen away. If you look at what Jonathan Moore said yesterday, this also aligns with what ZANU-PF is saying, with what Mnangagwa is saying. So Mnangagwa basically is now saying Chamisa has disassociated himself with the elections, so he doesn't want to talk to him. But you remember that the elders have tried to get Mnangagwa to talk to Chamisa, and he refused. The process at the secretariat is that Mnangagwa was supposed to come back with a response to the SADC SIOM report. But ED did not do that. He did not present a response until that report was adopted. So the adopted report at SADC says that Mnangagwa did not win the election. The election in Zimbabwe was rigged. That is the position at SADC. And for Mnangagwa to take over at SADC as chairman, then that report has to be removed. Mnangagwa cannot take over as SADC chairperson when he's subject of an investigation at SADC. So what you're going to see now is there's needs to be a contestation there at SADC to say, can ED take over as chairperson when he's subject of an investigation by SADC? And this is why ED is making all these efforts. You're going to see him a lot in Botswana. You're going to see him doing a lot trying to influence the leaders individually. So he's going to go to this country and that country. The intention is for him to take over at SADC. But it's not only that. He's making intentions at SADC. He's refusing to negotiate with Chamisa. He wants to take over as chairperson. But back home, he's also doing other things. So I'm going to go into what ED is doing in Zimbabwe. Right now, he's working at the parliamentary, Senate level, and he's also working at the Chiefs Council. So those are the three-pronged approaches that Mnangagwa is using. Working in Zimbabwe, working at the Botswana guys, working in the region, so that eventually he becomes the SADC chairperson and presidents in SADC accept him as the chairperson of SADC, which won't happen. I can assure you that this is going to be very difficult because ED is subject of a dispute at SADC, and it's not going to be very easy for him to take over there at SADC. So let's look at what Professor Jonathan Moore is saying. I see that Professor Jonathan Moore spent the whole night talking about this issue. So you can go and have a look at his Twitter after this and see what he's been saying. But basically, the argument that Mnangagwa is saying is that For the record, so this is from Professor Jonathan Moyo. Professor Jonathan Moyo is working with guys like Sengizo Tshabangu and so forth. And this is what he said. For the record, firstly, any new political party or whoever movement or whatever movement that did not participate in the 2023 harmonized general elections has no factual or legal basis for seeking a general fresh election. So you should understand what SADC wants. SADC has not recognized the past election. The past election that happened between ED and Chamisa did not meet any of the SADC guidelines. So they put a criteria, and out of a criteria of about 20 things, the election that ED ran failed to meet about 17 out of the 20 criteria. So it's not a valid election, according to SADC. And SADC's report is the strongest report in terms of saying that election is not free and fair. So the next step is for this election to be nullified, for a new election to start, to be held. But this only happens after a negotiation, because before SADC orders an election, they have to fix the process issues, the legal issues, the constitutional issues. Remember, SADC raised constitutional issues. So SADC CEO would then have to address all those issues before the fresh election is held. And it doesn't mean the fresh election will be held today. But the next election in Zimbabwe has to be held under new conditions. So this is what Professor Jonathan Moyo is talking about here. The issue at SADC is not a simple issue. It is an issue of an election rerun. This is what SADC is going to be talking about. This is the topic at SADC, is a fresh election. So I think let's agree at a high level that what SADC wants in Zimbabwe and what SADC needs to achieve in Zimbabwe is a change of the legal framework, an amendment of the constitutional or alignment of constitutional issues leading to a fresh election. That is why you see people like Professor Jonathan Moyo raising an issue around fresh election. Then he goes to say, secondly, in the same vein, anyone who wants to be a candidate, or anyone who was a candidate in any of the 3 elections held in 23-24 August 2023 harmonized general election, who has quit the party that sponsored him or his candidature, and who has since joined or formed a new party or movement, has ipso facto also quit any of his or her claims or entitlements relating to the general elections, regardless of whether the claims or entitlements are valid or not. And this is untrue. Professor Jonathan Moyo is being false here. If there is a dispute that has been lodged at SADC, and then the other party continues to make it unbearable for the other party to continue. So let's say they put Chamisa in jail. Let me give you an example of that, like they've done for Bobby Wine. They arrest him and put him under lock and key. And then he says, okay, I'm disengaging. It doesn't mean that his claims are gone. So Chamisa's claims are still valid. Chamisa is going to be still the one who is in the dispute at SADC. But what Mnangagwa is trying to do is to replace Chamisa with Sengizo Tshabangu in that dispute. That is what he wants to do. Remember also, I mentioned to you constitutional case number 1 of 2024, where ED has made a ruling that election was fine, everything was okay. If you go back a few weeks ago, we talked about ED going to court through a third party who had such poorly done papers, and that person lost in the constitutional court. So Mnangagwa now has a constitutional court paper which says that the election was free and fair. He now has support from people like Professor Jonathan Moyo, who said Chamisa has quit CCC. But you know that Chamisa did not quit by himself, was forced to quit because of the unbearable situation there in Zimbabwe that has been created by ED through the imposition of Sengizo Tshabangu as an interim secretary general. And Tshabangu is now in Senate. So basically, everything that ED is doing is aimed at making sure that there is no discussion of a fresh election at SADC, because this is where everything is. The dispute in Zimbabwe is eventually going to be resolved at SADC, and he wants to become chairperson at SADC, something which must be stopped because you cannot be a chairperson in the same body that is mediating against your election. So you're basically not a president, and this can easily be challenged by the other presidents to say ED cannot be president because he was not elected legally. There is a report right now at SADC that says ED is not the president in Zimbabwe. In fact, what I'm saying to you now, that's what that report says. It says ED's election did not meet 17 out of the 20 criteria for election. And he's refusing to negotiate. The elders, he's rebuffed the elders on numerous occasions. He's refusing to talk to them. And now the time he's spending in Botswana, as I said, is to create an infrastructure, an intelligence infrastructure, to make sure that he decimates the secretariat at SADC in Botswana and eventually take over as the chairperson. So basically to identify what the problem people there and make sure that they're out of the system before he takes over. Now I want to go to the last part. And it says that the next general election is continually scheduled for 2024. And between now and then is a lifetime. Anything can and will happen. That is Jonathan Moyo. But he's basically speaking the same language as ED and his people. ED and his people believe that they can sidestep SADC and they won't have to negotiate with Chamisa. And he will still be chairperson at SADC, killing the whole re-election process. But I don't think that is going to happen. I do not think he's going to succeed. So let's go to the options for Chamisa before I go into the what else Mnangagwa is doing. The options for Chamisa, since he's already written to SADC, is to go there again. Chamisa now needs to go to SADC. He needs to send another delegation to SADC before this situation gets out of hand. Chamisa needs to make sure that SADC is taken into account. I don't know if Chamisa can take them to court or if he can do other things, but SADC is the game plan, is the game place, is the stadium where this is going to be played out. Chamisa has to force SADC to act. Secondly, Chamisa has to bring about mass action. There is need for mass action in Zimbabwe as soon as possible to force Mnangagwa on the negotiating table. Dialogue is now very, very important. It has to happen. And mass action has to start. I do not know how it's going to do it, but there has to be mass action to force ED onto the table. And these two strategies, mass action and action at SADC, they have to work together. The situation must be so unbearable for ED in Zimbabwe that even when he goes to SADC, he won't be able to have a say. He won't be able to say to the SADC guys, there's no dispute. Because right now it's too quiet. It's very, very quiet. We need to see action. Chamisa has the necessary support in Zimbabwe to call for mass action. So I want to quickly run through the rest of the stories related to this. And then I close. As you can see, I'm in the dark. And when my light starts coming out outside, it becomes a bit of a problem. Right, let's look at Tshabangu. Tshabangu is now in Senate. This is one of the game plans of ED. There is massive amendments coming. And those amendments will require support of the CCC in Parliament and the Senate. So Tshabangu being there and Kakapulu is a big thing. Those two have been appointed. In Parliament, we're going to see other changes for proportional representative MPs. And I think, and I suppose that Mkwananzi is probably going to be one of them, the people who is going to be appointed there as a proportional representative, because I didn't see them get rid of Mkwananzi. He's not been removed. I had a chat with Mkwananzi this week and asked him if he is part of the blue or if he's part of the yellow and what is his position. And he refused to give me an answer. So I will have to ask him again to say, Mkwananzi, where are you? Where do you stand? Are you with Chamisa or are you with the yellow? He refused categorically to talk about that issue to me. And normally Mkwananzi would talk to me about such things, but he didn't. Then Mnangagwa is going to be obviously looking for someone who is going to support his positions in Parliament and the Senate. So the massive amendments that are coming are related to the elections. Everything that you're going to see is related to the elections, and Chamisa might be eliminated from the electoral field. These amendments that are coming and that are being proposed, you're going to see them slowly emerging. And it's all about the elections. We might also see Mnangagwa third and fourth term. Those are possibilities. Then I want to look at what the war vets have been saying in Bulawayo. The war vets want Mnangagwa to replace Mchangwa as soon as possible. And then someone has gone to ZEC and they've challenged the appointment of Charumbira as a deputy of the Chief's Council. So Mnangagwa wants Charumbira to stay in the Chiefs Council so that the chiefs are whipped. So he wants to whip Senate, he wants to whip the Parliament, and then he wants to whip the Chiefs Council. Very, very important bodies in Zimbabwe, because the Chiefs Council is where decisions are made about what needs to be done around the rural areas. You see right now they're busy destroying people's houses and moving people off land. There are many, many strategies that are being implemented by ED to reconfigure the political environment in the rural areas. The past election showed them something that we didn't see as people. There's something that they saw in the raw vote that is making them do what they're doing right now. And ED is very, very important, good at using data. He uses data more than the CCC does. They sit down, they analyze, and they see that this pattern is emerging. And that is what they're doing right now. When you see them moving so fast, they're doing something. Right. And then let's look at other stories. I want to quickly look at other stories here. Let's go to sports stories, and then I go to one entertainment story. And there is a lady here, Phyllis Maushe, in the Newsday. She has shared that her HIV story. That is a big story. You can go and look at Newsday. She's a DJ, a popular DJ in Zimbabwe. She showed how she got HIV at 16, and she's 25-year-old DJ. Then we've got the National Sports Stadium, which is no longer available for soccer matches. It's undergoing renovation for 2 months. We will not be able to use that stadium. So Dynamos and Cape United don't have a stadium. They won't be able to use that stadium. Then the story of a DJ who pretended to be a CIO or from Mnangagwa's office has taken a new turn. So this guy, this lady is called Tandeka Chitombo. She is from Chinhoyi at Platinum FM. She went and told the station manager, David Mugadza, that she is from Mnangagwa's office. She produced cards, the cards that shows that she works for Mnangagwa. I don't know why she was doing that. And she's also showed cards that she was member of the CIO. So David Mugadza then phoned Mnangagwa's office to say, is this true? I think there was a dispute. And Mnangagwa's office said, that's not true. So they denied her. She was arrested. She's currently in jail. And she was supposed to get bail to come out on the 13th of February. So to come out this week. But the judge denied her bail. And 2 police officers who were with her had taken $100 from her, assuring her that she was going to get bail. But when she didn't get bail, she then reported them, and they were also arrested, but they were granted bail. So what is strange about this case is that Mnangagwa's office is not the complainant. So if Tandeka Chitombo was not from Mnangagwa's office, I would expect Mnangagwa's office to say, this is not one of our people. And then Mnangagwa becomes a complainant because his office is being used for this kind of thing. But right now, the complainant is David Mugadza, who is the station manager, without any support from Mnangagwa's office. So I don't know how that's going on there. There's a lot of impersonation taking place in Harare of CIOs. There are many people, current and present and former CIOs, and people who work from Mnangagwa's office are driving around with unmarked cars. ZANU-PF members are driving around with unmarked cars, pretending to be doing intelligence work. Last week, last month, there was a raid conducted by such a group, and they seized drugs at a drug dealer's house in Harare. And these guys were arrested. I showed you the picture last month. So the intelligence, the control of intelligence in Zimbabwe has fallen apart. People are just doing what they want. There is a problem within the intelligence circles in Harare because there is a conflation between ZANU-PF, intelligence, CIO, and military intelligence is just sitting back, letting the situation continue like this. Because I think the last group that I think is actually quite credible is military intelligence. Those are the guys who can put control on all people intelligence. If everything falls apart from an intelligence perspective, then military intelligence are the last guys who should be able to come in and say, we need order in this field. Because everyone can't just be CIO, driving around with unmarked cars, arresting people, conducting raids, stealing money, because that's what they're doing. They're doing this thing to steal. The guys who are pretending to be intelligence and guys who are currently in intelligence, they use the intelligence that they've got and they conduct robberies. They go and steal from people with these other parties that are carrying IDs. So whoever is responsible for printing these intelligence agents CDs and IDs is the one who's responsible for creating this situation where people just pretend to be intelligence. So when you're moving around and you're accosted by someone who says they work for intelligence, now you don't know if you're dealing with intelligence or you're dealing with fake intelligence, or you're dealing with thieves, or you're dealing with robbers. So it's not clear anymore. This is because of the poor conditions of service around the intelligence circles. These guys are not being paid properly, and it's crazy. It's crazy what's happening in Zimbabwe. Intelligence is now a joke. People who are intelligence are now more of thieves than the thieves, which is crazy. Right. So I don't want to talk a lot. As you can see, my light is getting bad. It's very dark here. Yeah, the load shedding is crazy here. I'm getting load shedding 2-3 times a day, and it goes on and on. So let's see how it goes. But SA, they need to manage this better. They need to manage this situation of electricity much better, because it will eventually collapse the economy. Let's quickly look at the comments, and let's see what is happening here. Mkoma MS, Jonathan Moore and Wilbert Mkwari speak the truth on opposition politics. I don't know why they're vilified. They're not vilified. They're not vilified. Jonathan Moyo, you know, Jonathan Moyo is like a tool, a very good tool, but which is in the wrong hands. That is what Jonathan Moyo is like. He talks a lot, but he doesn't understand context. You have to understand context. The environment in Zimbabwe is not normal. So you cannot just apply the law in Zimbabwe without thinking about the context. So that is the problem with Jonathan Moyo. That is why people don't like him and what he's doing. He can easily become liked. Remember when he was given a chance by Tsvangirai and they didn't contest him in Cholocho. Then he quickly jumped back to ZANU-PF. Jonathan Moyo's blood is ZANU-PF. It will not change. So he will never move away from ZANU-PF, no matter what you do. SADC is controlled by BRICS. Come on, 1-on-1. That's what you're saying here. SADC is controlled by BRICS. What is BRICS? BRICS is nothing. BRICS is nothing. Let me tell you why BRICS is nothing. BRICS has got no ideology. You understand the problem with BRICS? They're a protest organization. Between China and Russia, those are the guys who are in charge. They don't share a common goal and purpose. The only reason why they came together is because they've got the US as a common enemy. But they've got no ideology, they've got no strategy. They are not formed. So BRICS is not formed. They cannot influence anything. What can BRICS influence? So whatever they're going to do is short term. It's not long term. If you look at an organization like NATO, they've got a military objective. Right? That makes sense. If you look at other economic forums, like G20 or whatever, they've got a purpose. What is the purpose of BRICS? To trade. Trade is transactional. So I don't think that is a serious thing. SADC, the problem with SADC is we are currently at a point. So I just need to address my issues here. Just hold on a second. I think my power is overheating here because I've been on backup power for so long. So let's just give it 1 second for me to address this before I get a blow up. Before something blows up on me. All right, just 1 second, guys. Right, my apologies. My backup power is a lithium battery, so it lasts 8 hours. But today I have been on backup power since I went to bed. So that time when I went to bed around 10, I was on backup power and I woke up on backup power. So my laptop and my screen and all that, when it gets to 8 hours, it stops managing. So I'm getting to that point now, and I'll probably just have to go to the gym for the next 2 hours and see what happens. So I was still talking about BRICS. BRICS cannot control SADC because they are not formed. There is no leadership in BRICS. So who is the leader of BRICS? Who is the what roles are there in BRICS? So if you have a regional organization like SADC, you know that there's a chairperson, and then there's a troika, and then there's a SADC defense and so forth, right? What is in BRICS? besides the foreign ministers? What is there? So BRICS is nothing. I do not take BRICS seriously until they all agree on a structure and a strategy. And this is where Zimbabwe has to be very careful. Zimbabwe just follows things, but they don't know. SADC is now becoming a military organization. So go to SADC now. Today, go to their website. They are working on a new, in fact, let's go there right now. SADC are working on a new peace, what is called the stand by force curricula. So if you go to SADC website, you'll see what I'm talking about. SADC is eventually going to have a military objective. They'll be able to go into the country and enforce. So RPTC rolls out the Africa Standby Force new curricula on peace support operations with workshops in Madagascar and Lesotho. So the SADC, what they're doing now, under the new secretariat which is there, is to strengthen the ability to defend and an ability to go into a country. So the DRC right now, they're proving it. In Mozambique, they're proving it. But eventually, in a case like Zimbabwe, you're going to eventually see SADC intervening. So in the next 5 years, if ED continues with what he's doing now, you eventually see a SADC intervention, because he's refusing to talk to these guys. He's basically saying, no, I won't talk to you, and what can you do about it? In fact, I'm going to be your chairman. That is what SADC, Mnangagwa is saying to SADC. He's saying to them, you have made a ruling, you've said that my election was not free and fair, but I don't care. And on top of that, he wants to be their chairperson. He is launching an intelligence operation in Botswana. As we speak right now, ED is launching an intelligence operation in Botswana, because all this time he's spending in Botswana, he's setting up his infrastructure to be there to take over and to make sure that he neutralizes the guys at SADC, at the SADC secretariat. This is basically the intention of what ED is doing. So this is Mnangagwa refused to say kuzopinda msangano with BRICS. And then Innocent Mkwananzi said, that's not true about BRICS. Why would someone try to destroy it when it is useless? SADC and South African borders are controlled by the West and get funding from there. You who calls the tune calls the shots. I think, Mkoma, this is a long topic of BRICS. I'm sure there's research that has been conducted on SADC, BRICS, and all the regional bodies. But currently, the most effective regional body in Africa, without a question, is SADC. The guys at SADC secretariat, who are there now, I think it's Mr. Elias Mahosi, the current chair of SADC, and President Hakainde Hichilema is the chairperson. These guys have done a great job. SADC has never been this effective ever since we knew SADC. They've never had the guts to issue the report that they issued, like the one they issued in Zimbabwe. You can imagine if Mugabe was there and SADC issued such a report, it was going to be crazy. Because the government, the GNU, the SADC hid the report. They didn't produce it. The current SADC produced that report and showed that Mnangagwa rigged and that Mnangagwa is not legitimately in office. That is what they've said to him. Behind the scenes, ED is struggling to convince people that he's the president of Zimbabwe. He's in a current crisis right now because he wants to take over as chairperson, and he's not able to do so until this issue of Zimbabwe is addressed. But as I said, Chamisa has to take the next steps, which is to go back to SADC, put pressure on SADC to respond, and then he has to launch mass action in Zimbabwe. There needs to be a negotiated settlement in Zimbabwe. There needs to be power sharing before we can move forward. Yeah. So I think my news, I can explain to you about SADC. SADC is not afraid of Mnangagwa, but ED is very good at intelligence. So he can even destabilize a country like Zambia if he wants. He's able to do that. In South Africa, if you put the South African intelligence here and Zimbabwe intelligence there, who is conducting more operations in whose other territory? Like Zimbabwe in South Africa and Zimbabwe. There are more operations by Zimbabwe in South Africa than South Africa in Zimbabwe. That you can know. The guys in South Africa, they are well aware of the level of infiltration of Zimbabwe intelligence in South Africa. And the capacity is there because you've got 4 million people in South Africa from Zimbabwe. That means your banks, your phone companies, your data is in the hands of ZANU-PF, because they can easily place an agent, let's say at Vodacom. If the president of South Africa has got his phone there, they will go there and look at his phone statement and say, where did he phone, and so forth. If one guy if he's banking at a certain place, they are going to look and say, oh, he's banking here, what is he doing this transaction? So the ability to collect intelligence in South Africa is high. Similarly in Botswana, and in fact in any country in Southern Africa, the Zimbabwe intelligence is able to collect evidence and information using the existing large number of people who are there in Southern Africa. So that gives ED a very, very big and strong hand on what can happen in these countries. He knows exactly what's going on. And in terms of spying, that ability to collect information in large quantities, including in government departments, in different provinces, he's able to do that because he's got people all over the place. And the issue is still where we started, which is SADC. SADC is where everything's going to end. This whole election which happened in 2023 is not resolved. No matter what happens internally, externally, the election in Zimbabwe is not resolved. You saw the United States just came out last week. The election is not resolved. The debt process has been stopped. The African Development Bank process. And at the same time, the Zimbabwe currency has collapsed. Nothing is moving in Zimbabwe. And it's going to get worse. This is an ideal situation for Nelson Chamisa to now launch mass action. That is what is needed. If ED refuses continues to refuse to negotiate, then mass action is the next move. But you must be prepared to take it to its full course. I was having a chat this week with someone who is in international circles, and they said if there's mass action, ED is going to respond with fire, live fire. This is going to happen, and Chamisa must be prepared to take that route, the route where it gets right to the end. And this is where everything is going. So I think I want to end it here. I've talked a lot in the dark. I'll be back in the evening. As I said, I had promised that I was going to have a chat about the ZIDA report. But unfortunately, yesterday, Prophetess Rubimbo wanted to talk about the Putin interview. And that didn't go well. She was live and she was cut by all the platforms, which is crazy. I don't know what happened there. Mkoma JM is saying, Gabogo make me laugh. I tell you, yes, I make you laugh. But if you are Chamisa right now, you've got options. And Chamisa, as Mkoma MS is saying here, must be prepared to sacrifice human lives. Not only to sacrifice human life. I told you how Chamisa can get into office. You remember before the elections. The day Chamisa goes into office, you must look out of a window. There must be no car moving. There must be no person walking. There should be no building open in Zimbabwe. No business. Everything should be stopped. There will be nothing moving that day. That is the day when Chamisa is going to get into office. Not this thing that we're seeing now, where everyone is smiling and happy and going to work and selling things on the street. The day that Chamisa takes office is going to be a day when there is no other choice but for him to take office. And this is not yet there. Right now, we're still at the SADC process. And that SADC process is being stalled by Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa, who thinks now that Chamisa has quit from CCC by his hand. Remember, Chamisa quit because he was forced. Then he can go to SADC and say, that guy who said he was my opponent is no longer my opponent. He's left his party. And he will say then, now there's no problem. I can now become the chairperson of SADC. And then he's going to, in the meantime, use intelligence to decimate the SADC secretariat right there at Botswana. He's going to spend so much time there. By the end of the day, you see a different SADC secretariat which will be compliant to him and will allow him to come over and become a chairperson. But it won't happen because that SADC report, the CIOM report, still stands. So I'd like to thank everyone here, and I'd like to appreciate Mkoma GM who says I'm struggling with analysis. Let's see Mkoma GM. I'll call you here to analyze for 34 minutes and let's see what you say. And yesterday I met some guys, right, here in Cape Town. They said, Gambakwe, why is it that you support Chamisa, and then you support Tendai, and then you support Job Scala. Why don't you just support Chamisa only? They stopped me, they called me back to from where, and I said to them, my job is not to support. I've got my personal preference. That is, you all know that I've been supporting Chamisa since the day he became the president of the CCC, of the MDC. But I have to support everyone in terms of giving them a platform. So if Chamisa does something, I will cover it. But if Tendai is at his home and he does nothing, there's nothing for me to support them. There's nothing for me to talk about. So when Tendai comes out and he talks, I'm going to bring it here and we'll talk about it. But if he stays at his home and keeps quiet, I'm not a quiet media. I'm here to talk about what's happening, not what is not happening. Similarly, if Mnangagwa goes to Botswana and tries to take over there, I'm going to talk about it. In fact, what has happened is that Mnangagwa is, I think, so far this month, his top level delegations have been there for 3 or 4 times in Botswana. He's launching a campaign around Africa to get recognition, and Chamisa, he needs to do something about it, and that is a fact. We need to get Chamisa to step up here. If he wants to get this dialogue going, he needs to step up. Chamisa has got a good case. It's written down. Chamisa and Mnangagwa have a dispute, and SADC knows that the election did not meet 17 out of the 20 criteria that was set in the SADC guidelines for the elections. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And I've spoken for longer than expected. I'll try to come back in the evening, or Dr. Fedias Mtene will come. There is so much to cover, and we'll be doing so every single day. I've got an assignment here for us to do this for the whole year, every day. Also, we've got our fundraising activities. We want to build our head office in Harare. 200,000. That is what we want to raise. $200,000. If you're able to assist us, or if you know someone who's able to assist us, give me a shout on my number here. Let's get our media working. So I'm going to be asking a lot of people. Give me a WhatsApp and let's have a chat. If you know someone who can assist us to build our head office in Harare, it's going to be a head office for all social media, not just for Gambaku Media. That is what we're trying to build. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and a good day to you all.